But we got a special guest tonight. She's been on with us before on the Motley Crew, but she's joining us now on Uncut and Uncensored. Welcome, Judith Rose. How you doing?
Hi. Okay. I'm hanging in there. It's been a weird day.
Yeah, it's weird. Is like I don't even think weird can come close to what's been going on lately. But
I know. I mean, I don't live in California, but I'm their neighbor, so it's like secondhand weirdness from them. But yeah, just in general.
yeah. So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and how you got to be where you are today.
Okay, yeah, origin story time. So there was a time where I was doing this quite a bit, and I was just like I had to take a break from it. You know what I mean? I was like, all right, but it's been a while. So in 2020, I was a registered Democrat, and I was like deep in a lot of like the social justice stuff, the kind of like um what do you call them, the social justice movements and some of the ideologies that have been pervading like social media and the internet and stuff. I was like pretty deep in those. I was going to like BLM protests and stuff, and then COVID kind of came in, and at first I was like buying into it, and then just a few weeks into it, I was like, this feels really weird. It feels really off. And I was at this job out in Phoenix where I used to live, and I didn't like it anymore because everything we were doing with COVID really like just took all the joy out of it. Like I was working in a medical dispensary. First of all, we became recreational and everything. The dynamic changed of everything. Like I really enjoyed having patients and people that I spoke to on like a medical basis. Like, how does this help you? What can I do for you? Get to know people. And then we went to recreational. It was just like anybody could have it. And then we went to go only for COVID, and there was no interaction. And I just lost all my passion for it. Like I realized it was temporary, but it just went on and on and on, and we were spraying down alcohol in between everybody, wearing masks, doing like all this crazy stuff, and I was like, enough. Like this is weird. And so I took some time to figure things out, and I mean my circumstances were completely different. And so then I started kind of digging into like documentaries and things, and I was noticing this like pattern politically with BLM. It was like every election year we had these riots. You know, I was studying like the Rodney King in the 90s, and it was a very similar pattern to George Floyd. And so I got
BLM.
deep into yeah, BLM. I got really deep into like who owns the media, who owns this. You know, if I was following the money, I was following Act Blue, and I was putting all these pieces together, and I was like, I might be wrong about a lot of things here. And you know, then I was looking into Trump too, because I used to really, really, really not like him at all. Like really, like I have this original viral video where I said something like I would have pissed in his coffee, and just you know, really inappropriate stuff. But yeah, I was kind of just that raw. I'm angry all the time at everything because the news told me so kind of person. And so I started to undo all of that, and people were seeing that on social media because I was expressing it. I was just like, you know, this is crazy. All these, I'm understanding what people meant about Hillary's emails and all this stuff. Like I was just going through everything that I possibly could, and so you know, people thought that was interesting, I guess. And so it ended up building a platform. I'm talking to a lot of people, making a lot of new friends, and then I met somebody new, and my whole life changed, and I went to England, and brought somebody back with me, and you know, now we have this whole new life. But and and now the problem is Matt is kind of dealing with this chronic illness over detransitioning. So stopped taking testosterone and feels pretty stuck, and that's not for me to speak on per se. But it's been really challenging in that sense, and we were discovered by Gays Against Groomers when I was helping Matt put out some videos about, you know, how he felt about this narrative of gender ideology, and then the push that they've got in the education system, the push that they're trying to confuse all these kids with all this just overload of information and just sexually explicit content and things that just they are not necessary, and some of it's just disgusting. And
Yeah.
all these people think that this is normal. So Matt, this is what Matt and I are against. So we joined this organization because, you know, since 2020, I woke up and I was like, you know, I can sit here and make videos all day, but I like really wanted to actually do something. So I ended up becoming the director of communications. So now I write press releases and blog pieces, and I monitor some of the messaging on like the social media accounts, and I help people with their content. And um it's just crazy how, how everything's progressed and all the people that I've met. And I was in news articles, and then I was writing some, and and everything changed. So it's been just a really insane experience, honestly. And this year I've struggled a little bit with processing all of it. Especially because my partner is sick, so it's been a lot. And I know you kind of advertised that I was a podcaster, and I did have one for a while, but I haven't been able to put any energy into it really this year because like personal stuff's
Oh,
just been too much.
mhm.
I absorbed all this information in
I was
like
gonna
within the
say,
like 6 months, and then I was like, oh, everything's a lie, and then we changed my whole life, and now I'm sitting here like, okay, like, wow. So I've had to just had a lot of processing to do this year. And
yeah, I mean, yeah, because if you jumped in for, I mean, yeah, people think like it's been 3 years, but 3 years is really,
it's not.
really a short time
Yes.
to go through everything that you went through.
I mean, I left a long-term relationship. I got married, and for the second time. A lot of people don't know that. I was previously divorced. And I'm 32. Yeah, maybe I don't look like it, but yeah, people were kind of surprised. Some people are surprised when they find that out, but um yeah, I've been through it, seen some stuff, and
Just a
I
little
went
bit.
down every single rabbit hole I could find in a few months. So now I'm here, and I'm don't have a whole lot of energy left for much more than dealing with my personal life and occasionally having some serious chats with people. And what I'm doing with the organization is a lot. So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Gays Against Groomers has been really, really busy, and if y'all haven't checked out their, I mean, I know there for a while. It's just like when I first, it's where I met Judith to start with. She came on when we were talking about that organization, and yeah, it was just that. It seems like here, just Pride was a busy month for him, but it's like now
yeah.
that Pride's let off, I've seen more and more interaction with them on all the spaces. I know they just came back from the women's conference, I believe it was,
I
or
wonder,
she
I
or
don't know
the
if it
owner or
was,
the director did.
I don't know if it was Moms for Liberty. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
it might have been. She had a
yeah.
big speech with them. Um, but yeah, we've actually been incredibly busy because, I mean, even during Pride Month, we were big on telling people to join us. It was that, and like trying to get our message out to the major cities that we had chapters in and that we could go to. And we had to make everything safe too as well. Like we have to be really careful when people go in person or do anything in person. It's because our opposition is actually insane. Like they want to hurt us, and they
Oh
will.
yeah.
And they've done things like a group of like actual Nazis showed up and took pictures next to Jamie, and now they're like, "Oh yeah, Jamie's a Nazi too." And we were like, "Literally
What?
no." Yes. Like this is the kind of this is what they do. They are diabolical with this
Oh
stuff.
my
They have been trying
gosh.
to group us with far right nonsense forever, and they don't like who Jamie supports politically. I don't think that should matter.
No.
And her and I don't uh, support the same people, and it doesn't matter because the cause is what matters. Like children's safety is what matters. Like, I don't know if people fully understand what's happening either. So, half the battle's awareness, and the other half is driving off these actually insane people that believe this narrative and believe that we're out to get them, which is insane. It's just wild. Like,
Well, it's just I was listening to something the other day, talking about that, because I watch a bunch of different other podcasts, but they were talking about, and I do believe it. I do because I'm old. I turned 50 this year or this month, actually here in a couple weeks.
we're not that old.
Uh, well, I mean, when you look back as a kid, when you're like 5, 6, 7, and 8, and you think 50 is like old, but it's
Yeah.
just like, I mean,
And then you get there and you're like, it's
what
not.
is 50 supposed to feel like? I mean,
Yeah. Who knows these days?
but going back into my generation, I've seen people now. There's actually movements out, save the tomboy and stuff like that I've
Yeah,
seen
yeah, yeah.
popping up in my Twitter feed, which I think is cool because I mean, I grew up with my nieces and nephews, and most of them were nieces, and most of them were tomboys, which now you would classify as confused. Um,
That makes no sense because that I'm very confused about this because in my lifetime, I saw the breakdown of like, gender stereotypes. In the 90s, it was like, yeah, girls can do this and girls can do this and girls can do this. Cool, cool, cool. And it's just like, oh yeah, just because you do this doesn't mean you're not a woman. Just because you do this doesn't mean you're not a man. Like everybody, we all understood that. It was
Hmm.
fine.
Yep.
Like we were past the whole 50s, men do this, women do this. When men go to work, women stay in the kitchen. Like we were past that. We were done with it. And now it's like they want to reinforce that. They want to say, "Oh, well, if you act masculine as a woman, that means you have to be a man."
Yep.
That's just inverted gender stereotypes. It's backwards. It's regressive.
And
And
I think a
it's just
lot of it
ridiculous.
has to do is just with social media influence. I mean,
Yeah,
because like I said,
absolutely.
back in my day, we didn't have social media. We didn't have Twitter and everything
Mhm.
else. It was like I said, it's hard to explain to, like my nieces and my great nieces and nephews now that are like 12, 13, 14 years old,
Yeah.
what, we didn't have cell phones and they just think that's like, oh, why? How'd you communicate? It's like we pulled over and we found a payphone.
Yeah, and so they don't
Um,
understand how, like, a social contagion actually works and how it works so well because of social media. And some people don't realize that this did start in, like, some of the darkest corners of the internet and, like, the little communities of Tumblr and Reddit and all these, 4chan, whatever. The forum started, people started, basically kids started validating each other and, like, forming these little sort of, like, cult mentalities on the internet, and, but not just there because it seems to be coming through the government as well since it's in the military.
yeah.
That's what I discovered. I did, was doing a lot of research. I've interviewed a couple of people on it, and this is definitely coming from high up. And they're
Oh yeah.
doing it to confuse the masses. They're doing it to sterilize a generation. They're doing it to, cause more, division, all the above kind of thing. So it's really scary, and I don't think people understand how that works. They think that "Oh, that's impossible, they would never do that, that's too big of a conspiracy," but it's very real, I assure you.
You know, it's just like people, yeah, that's one of the things I was talking about or talking to you earlier about like the trolls that are, I'm starting to find more and more
Yeah.
trolls in Twitter
Yeah,
or X.
they're out.
And it's just like I get called a MAGA, I get called
Mhm.
a conspiracy theorist. And it's like, and I just let them do it because I look
Yeah.
at it this way. It's just like they're just all they're doing is boosting my engagement on Twitter. I
Yeah.
just they can go ahead and continue. Um, but no, it's just kind of funny. It's just like people that used to believe in something. I mean, even before Trump, I mean, we never really had this issue until Trump came into office. I'm not blaming Trump, but Trump was a different kind of a president. He wasn't
Mhm.
political.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
not in the start.
yeah, yeah.
It took me
He
a while to understand all of that too, like, looking back at his popularity with the Black community, looking back at the things he accomplished before this, who he's helped, the things that he's done, like, sure, he has kind of a bad record with women, whatever, he's a little bit of a guy's guy, but fine, but he does business pretty well.
yeah, and that's just it. He was a businessman,
Yeah,
and that's what this country needed. I'm not gonna lie. I
because we're
mean,
a corporation.
yeah.
We're not actually a country, we're a corporation, we're a business,
Oh, now
therefore.
you're conspiracy theorying. Come on, no, we're not a corporation. No, that's what I
Mhm.
tried to explain. Is it's like, okay, so if you don't, I love that though because I do believe that myself, just for the fact
Mhm.
because if you go back, like I said, if you want to go back into history, and that's what I tell people is like you need to know your history. You need to
Mhm.
go back as far as you possibly can.
Yep.
Grab all the history books you possibly can and keep them
Oh, yeah, for sure,
because
books definitely have helped me a lot, there's one book I really need to finish, but it's about, like, the, formation of the CIA and Allen Dulles, and people need to know that.
yeah. Well, it's just like my thing when I started looking into the corporation was the fact of um, I ran across this article that somebody was talking about back in it was right after the Civil War because the United States went bankrupt.
Mhm.
We completely went bankrupt, and this I can't remember what his name is right off a hand, but basically bought the debt from France
Yeah.
because we went to France and all that and got all this money to help fund the Civil War. Well, so we went bankrupt because we couldn't pay our note. Just like happens every year during budget and everything else.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was kind of interesting to it was kind of interesting to find out that that was actually something there, but it's not like written in history, not in the books that we, were taught in school or
Right.
college or anything else. But these are
Well,
independent articles and stuff that people did their own research on, and it's not like Wikipedia or anything like that. But
not Wikipedia is not even reliable. Like that's the thing
no,
that people don't understand. It is not reliable, and one of the reasons that I know this for sure. I mean, first of all, when I was in high school, which was '04 to '09, my teachers would not let us use Wikipedia as a source.
no,
No, they were
my
like, "You
college
can't."
wouldn't either.
Yeah, you can't. So now, because Gays Against Groomers didn't get to it first, a radical activist who's against us decided to write our page for us, and it's locked, and we can't edit it.
It's locked.
Yeah, you should go read it. It's awful. It's all lies.
Wow.
It just makes us seem like some scary hate group, and it's so stupid and so frustrating because there's nothing we can do about it.
Oh, wait a
Oh,
minute. I did. Yeah, I did read that back when I was
it
researching you
makes
guys
me
when you came
so
on. That
angry
is
every
right.
time I think about it. I don't know what we don't know what to do. Like, we talk about it all the time, it keeps coming up. We're like, "What do we do about the Wikipedia? What do we do about the Wikipedia?"
Can you not get a hold of them to shut it down? Without they won't shut it down.
Mm-mm.
Wow. Well, I know Wikipedia went through some has been going through some issues like with
Oh,
that kind
yeah,
of stuff here lately. So, but no, I mean, yeah, because I mean,
it's fun.
yeah, I mean, Wikipedia is just the only reason why Wikipedia. The reason why they don't allow is because it's so easy edited by
Mhm,
anybody,
mhm.
and just like you said, I mean, you can get locked out of your own page if somebody knows what they're doing.
Yep.
But no, that's what I'm saying. History. Like I said,
Yeah.
I know we talked about this a little bit the last time, but I'm a big firm believer on the 80-year block, and that's one of the biggest conspiracy theories that's been going around for a while. That
Mhm.
we go through an 80-year period of peacefulness, peaceful and tranquility, and then it goes into like some type of major changing, and then it goes into
Yeah,
a
like a
chaos.
cycle. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've definitely heard that one for sure. The other one I heard is that an empire only really lasts about 250 years before it starts to collapse, and we're past that.
yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, and
But
I definitely think we are collapsing because the narratives are so divisive that it's just between the people who believe this stuff and the people who don't. I mean, there's stuff a few in between, some people who aren't, like, all the way there, but they know that something's not right, and they believe this, but not necessarily that kind of thing, which is always kinda weird. But, in general, it's just completely dividing reality, it's frightening, really. I don't really see any kind of solution.
yeah, this has done this once before too. I'm trying to figure out something different as a different broadcasting system.
Yeah, I don't know if it's me or not.
No, because it's rethinking on my side, so I think it's the platform.
Okay.
Um, but no, yeah, it's just life in general. I don't know. I'm not saying conspiracy theories. You can call me conspiracy theories or whatever you want to do, but look how many conspiracy theories have come true in the last 4 years.
Epstein was a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I mean, and it's still. I mean, it's one of those ones that just kind of got shoved under the rug because I was like, I've been sitting here waiting for all these names, which I know we're never going to get the names released. This is going to be like the JFK files.
Mhm.
They were supposed to be released 5 years ago,
Some
and
people claim that they have been, and there's, like, a black book floating around, and I just don't really know what to trust. That's the issue as well, is it was and I know they probably did this on purpose because they knew people would find out some stuff eventually, so they flooded the market, right, with
oh yeah,
all these different theories that may or may not be true, or they're, like, 60% true and 80% true, but not completely true, and it's all mixed up, and everyone's arguing over this, and this, and it's just like the perfect storm.
yeah. Well, yeah, just like we said in the beginning, is just a distraction. Everything we're seeing
Yeah.
is, you know, w- especially when they came out and sat there and said, "Okay, aliens are real," and everybody on
Nobody
Twitter,
cared. Everyone's
yeah,
like, "Meh."
everybody's like, you can see all the millennials and
And
everything. It's like, why
pics
is not
or
people talking about this? Like because we
where are the
already knew it was there.
photos?
Yeah,
Yeah. They
you
didn't
know,
actually show us anything concrete. They were just like, "Oh, yeah, non-human entities." We're like, "And?"
yeah. And the fact is, it's like, okay, we grew up. Most of us grew up in a generation of Star Trek and Star Wars and Battlestar
Right.
Galactica and Stargate, everything that had to deal with aliens or science fiction. Um,
Sorry, my cat's making an appearance.
oh, it's
Hello.
cool.
Honey. He does this. He needs attention right now. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah,
He's gonna be here for a sec. Come on
you're
then.
good.
Come on then. Come on
The
then.
more the welcome, more the merrier.
All right, settle in, settle in.
But no, yeah, no. I mean, I don't care. I mean, the ones that I sit there and when they call you conspiracy theorist or everything else is like it just means you're touching a nerve that they don't understand.
Yeah, and the problem I have with that is, like, you're saying that somebody has completely made something up, but the when you break down conspiracy theorist, which I'm pretty sure was a term invented by the CIA in the first place, conspiracy merely describes a group of people plotting against another.
Hmm.
That is a conspiracy. So, like, the conspiracy against Caesar, for the most broadest example, they plotted to kill him, and they did. It was a conspiracy. And a theorist is just someone who posits the possible who, what, when, where, why of it all.
Yeah.
But it's more than likely happening, and that's why the theory exists, because we've seen enough to be like, something's definitely going on here, and we try to talk about it. And then people are like, why do you guys all sound like you're psychotic? Like, just why are you like this? Why do you have to ask these questions? You sound crazy. Da 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 da. Like, can you not just let people like talk amongst themselves and try to figure out what's happening, or do you trust the government? Like, what's your problem? Like, just let people live. Let us figure it out.
Well, I think those ones there that stand up against and everything else. What there's a bigger mass of there's a bigger group and a bigger mass of people that will stand up and talk about like the what we're talking about and everything else about conspiracy theories are only like you said for those that don't want to really deep dive into it. They just find a
Mhm.
word just to just to basically appease themselves and make themselves feel comfortable. Um, and they don't want to do the work. That's just it. There's so many people out there that
Mhm.
just don't want to do the work. They don't want to go back in. So yeah,
Yeah.
they do trust the government because all they have to do is turn on their TV, watch mainstream media, and the government tells them what they want to know. You know.
There's another crowd of people that don't wanna do the work, that want to know the conspiracy theories, but don't want to put together their own information, and so they will believe things that they shouldn't necessarily believe,
Yep.
based on someone who's taken a few photos and things out of context, slapped them all together in a few slides, and makes something look a certain way and imply things, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, you might be right," and
Yeah.
those are the ones that kind of ruin it for us.
Yeah.
That's what gets annoying, and that's one of the reasons I started posting less and less and less, because I was like, I really do wanna know what I'm talking about, and I don't wanna just be another one of those crazies that's like, "Whoa, look at this," like, I can't. So I started buying books and talking to more people in person and doing more things, with the organization, because I want to be part of ending this. Like, it's just gotten so out of hand. And like I was saying to you before we started recording, like, I'm a level of exhausted that I can't explain. Like, it runs so deep, and it's been almost a year straight of me just feeling burnt out.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm tired of the horrible trolls. I mean, I know obviously you shouldn't just you I always tell people, "You shouldn't let them bother you, just ignore it, blah, 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 don't feed them, like, don't give them that energy." There he goes. But, it does get grating after a
Oh
while,
yeah.
especially, like, 'cause, like, every now and then I have some kind of, like, incident on the internet that attracts these crazy people, right? And it just gets they're incessant, and sometimes they want your address. They tell you you should die. They tell you they're gonna do these things to you, and, it's just, like, you don't know what to take seriously or not. I mean, like, one time I actually called the police and asked them to patrol my neighborhood because I was, like, genuinely concerned,
Yeah.
and, it's exhausting. Like, I have no words left anymore. It takes me a little bit to kind of push and say something anymore, other than what I'm doing with the organization. Like, I would love to be running a podcast, but I just don't know. Everyone's always talking about the same stuff, and I don't want to fearmonger necessarily, but
That's
I just
that's
don't. I'm at a loss.
that's kind of like what we've run into here lately. It's like okay, you can only talk about so much political stuff, enough. I mean, till it becomes to the
Yeah.
point where you said you're just basically recycling the same content over and over again, or It's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like the whole thing with Trump. Number four indictment. The only really thing I saw different between this indictment and the rest of them is I really do believe that this indictment was just made up for the fact because there was no big group, there was no big rally, no nothing like there was at everything else. So that's what kind of like I really just don't believe it. And then plus, like I said, you
Yeah.
got social media influencers that rely on content to make a living off of, so they just continuously to post out, you know,
Anything.
anything
Yeah.
that comes out of their mouth or
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just like I just and then along the way I've tried a lot of things on the side like the kind of like when you do like the content sometimes you have to like partner up with certain brands or little things to kind of like team up with people, promote this, promote that. And I've always hated it. Like I pick something up for a couple months and then I'm just like, "Nah, I'm good."
yeah,
Like and I couldn't make that work. I was just like, I don't like doing this. Like, I don't. I want to support some people, but on the other hand, it just makes it's such a weird feeling. You know what I mean? So I was just like, I don't like this. And I was just like, I don't know what to do anymore, really. Like other than what I am doing now, I've just dedicated myself to the organization and to writing and just getting more into that and in my personal life. And I don't know where this is headed besides kind of this inevitable destructive blowout because the tension is so high around the world and between
yeah.
people in our country. Uh,
Well, it's just like with everything going on now, now we've got another distraction. We've got all the Maui fires going on. We've
right.
got, I mean, it's
It's
just
so
one distract.
devastating.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, yeah, it's really devastating to find out that the loss of life, but it even makes it worse when you found out that the government over there really dropped the ball on, protecting their citizens. And then our
Yeah.
government our president turns around and sits there and sends them $700 to try to get their life back.
Japan did more for them than we did. Did you hear that?
Uh-uh.
Japan offered them to a boatload, like what we should have given them, to be honest. So I'm
Wow.
glad that they have that. But frankly, Hawaii doesn't even like being part of the United States, and I don't blame
No.
them.
No, because see, that was the whole thing. Because I didn't know either. Lahaina used to be the capital of the Big Island
The
before.
Kingdom of Hawaii.
Yeah, yeah, the Kingdom of Hawaii before the United States annexed it or took it over. So
Mhm.
it's just like that was really interesting, and I don't know, that whole thing with over there just kind of funny that all the elites property didn't even get touched, nothing got scorched on their side. It was just
Yeah.
it was all mainly the original citizens that lived there in the downtown area because they did not want to. They never wanted to leave. I guess they were trying to revitalize that, and make it more of
Mhm.
a tourist attraction. And the people
Yeah.
just wanted to keep their original way of life,
Yeah.
and that doesn't happen. You
It's
get
sad. And I know a lot of people are frustrated with the amount of information that's flying around because not all of it's accurate.
yeah,
So, I'm just praying for them. I mean, it's very suspicious, all of it, and all we can do is just try to find out, ask, and I don't know.
yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, it's just like I don't want to like stay on a. I don't want to do all like political kicks. I know that's what a lot of the stuff. Everything is politicalized and everything else. But I
It
mean,
shouldn't be.
it's just like like education and everything else. You guys are deep. You're deep into with the organization with the education side of things.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
it's like I said, it's really scary because you can see how they're changing things and why. Like they're even reprogramming therapists to just affirm and give people what they want, which is completely against everything they're trained for. I mean, everything is being infiltrated and destroyed from the inside.
did you see where they came out? The only reason why I bring this up is because the school district that where I'm at here in Tulsa is a part of it. The what is it called? The Confucius classrooms.
Mm-mm.
Chinese. The Chinese have basically they started. offering. It started in Canada, then it kind of moved down to here. But they offered these Confucius classrooms to these school systems where they were supposed to like teach Mandarin, as another ethical, extracurricular course. But
Mhm.
the more and more Canada started deep diving into it, they realized because what it is they contact these districts, and there's actually Confucius universities. I think there's like one or two left up there, but they teach Mandarin. They teach about the culture of Chinese or the Chinese and everything else. But there's certain things that you can't talk about. Like you can't talk about
Right.
Tiananmen Square. You can't talk about you can't talk negative towards the Chinese government. And then
Of
come to
course.
find out is it's like you put down so much money into building these, and then they send teachers over, and they send the material, and they also give you like $18,000 to $20,000 as a match. So it's just like, so now they're finding out, like I said, Canada got rid of most of theirs, and now they're finding out there's 39 districts here in the United States and 140 schools that have that curriculum inside their schools. And
Interesting.
our main public school system here in Tulsa has that. And it's just like,
See, under nor other circumstances, I'd be like, "Oh, it's so cool for kids to learn Mandarin and to, like, learn the culture, da 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 da," but the rest of it is like, "Okay, what do
yeah,
you mean they can't question Chinese government within the United States?"
yeah.
I'm sorry. No. No,
So
no.
that's
The
been a big,
intentions are pretty clear there.
yeah, that's been a big thing here now once they found that out, because I believe Parents Defending Education, another group, I think is what it's called, is the one that found this out and brought it to the attention, of all these school districts that they
Freaky,
have this
yeah.
program. And it's just like when I see my school, we're the only one in Oklahoma, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So it's just like, I
Mm.
mean, it's not just the fact that it's like bad, like you said, teaching Mandarin a different culture, it's fine.
Yeah, that's cool, but the rest of
But
it,
yeah, when you're sitting there demanding that they can't do this, and there's certain practices they can't even discuss, that they used to do back in ancient Chinese
that
or
is
ancient
weird.
China. Basically,
Mm-mm.
anything that would, basically, you can't discuss anything that would be beneficial to critical thinking or anything else like that.
Of
It's like,
course. Right.
wow. And I don't know how
Yeah.
long that's been here. I haven't really looked into it. Like I said, they just found it, and they're still trying to find more information on how long they've actually had that curriculum in place and everything else. And
And what's scary to me is, kids getting in trouble for wearing T-shirts saying there's only 2 genders.
oh,
They're being, like, pulled out and talked to and or suspended or you know what I mean? It's just like, you're literally trying to change everyone's reality. You're denying biology, you're rewriting all this stuff. It's getting very Orwell out here, and it's not cool. Like, this isn't progress. This is you're de-arming a population. I don't think people understand that. You are de-arming them. You're stripping them of an identity by giving them so many things to choose from. You can change all the time, whatever you want to be, just whatever you take these drugs, just then you can't have kids. Then you're weak. Now we can control you. Yeah, it's I don't it's people don't wanna wrap their minds around how sinister this actually is and that the government would actually allow this to happen, but they will and they are, and they're doing it.
well, and it's no different. Like I said, a lot of people criticize me for saying this, but it's no different than. It is different, but it's not the practices are not as different of back during World War II. With the Hitler Youth and everything else, what they did. What Mangala did
Yeah.
with a.
And that's why I think it's so crazy that people try to call gays against groomers Nazis because, like, we're not the ones experimenting and sterilizing children. And also erasing gay
No,
people, trying to trans the gay away is what they're doing, that's what we say, because like, this tomboy girl could just literally be a lesbian later in life. Let her figure it out. Don't tell her to be a boy. You don't know what she wants or what she's gonna do. She doesn't know what she wants or what she's gonna do. She might think so, but when you're, like, 12 years old, you don't. You don't know anything. And I don't know, I thought that it was common sense, like, that we have to protect kids up until a certain point, then they're old enough to figure it out because their brains aren't developed yet.
no.
They're not done cooking.
I asked somebody the question about that the other day. It's just, because the whole ideology, some of these people think now that, a child can determine the gender at 2 years old or something like
No.
that, or even
Hell
younger.
no.
And I'm sitting there going, okay, so they can determine if they're boy or girl at that young of an age, but they can't tie a shoe until they're like between the ages of 3 and 4.
I just don't understand why this is even a debate, and it makes me furious that parents are doing this to their kids. There's a man in California that's, like, about to lose custody over his son because he
Yeah,
told his baby mama to stop putting dresses on him, and then got him diagnosed with gender dysphoria. It's like, "You think?"
yeah. No,
It's
that
sick. She started doing it at 2 years old. Like, no child knows anything about any concepts of complex gender ideologies or gender theories at 2 years old. You
well,
can't you cannot assume things because a child is touching a certain object. The most ridiculous thing I've heard is I heard a woman testify in court that because her child liked broccoli, they must be trans. I was like, "Shut the whole
what?
up," because yeah, this is how it's just psychotic. Like, these people are out of their freaking gourds.
Wow. I mean, no, it's just like I said, the more and more I've gotten into this whole, rabbit hole of stuff, and it's like I just like I said, I'm an old school person. When people sit there and say, "Oh, you're old school," it just means you're set in your ways. It's like, yes, I'm set in my ways. I was raised in, it's not that I didn't go through the changes. I went through, the whole, you know, gay bashing era where people, gays weren't allowed, as a young teenager, the gays were like a bad thing. Homosexuality was bad. AIDS was like really bad,
Yeah.
and all of that stuff. So I went through as a teenager, not really, you know, grasping the concept of what was going on, but it never changed my mind. I had
Mhm.
friends in high school that, we found out during high school, the later years in high school, they were lesbians.
Mhm.
And I still have a couple of friends, they were that way, and then they're living in Colorado, they're married and everything else. But I don't know. I guess it's all about how you're raised, and you got these
Mhm.
parents. I agree. You got these parents that are just
Delusional.
they drank the
Like,
juice and they just keep drinking
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're chugging it, some of them. I don't understand, and a lot of it is coming from online, and I think a lot of people are in denial about this whole social contagion thing because that this is exactly how it works. These ideas have just, like, permeated everything through people's screens. The
Yeah.
repetition, it's the simplest form of brainwashing. You repeat
Oh yeah.
something and often enough, people will think that it's true. So you keep hearing like, "Oh, gender isn't real, nothing's real, be whatever you wanna be," over and over and over and over. Of course, you're gonna start believing it and questioning it, like, even I did. I was just like I was starting to think I was, like, non-binary, but that literally implies a binary. It's just you can be androgynous, that is a thing.
Yeah.
People forgot about that.
Yeah.
People also forget what autogynephilia means, which is then they're getting it twisted and being like, "Oh, yeah, these are trans women." No, these are men with fetishes, most of them are.
Yeah.
You can usually tell by looking at them and looking into their profiles and with the things that they post and, like, the level of, like, how sexual they make things constantly, all their little side interests, like, you can tell.
Oh yeah.
It's not hard, but I don't understand why people are trying to say, "Oh, you can't question it, you have to take this at face value." No, there needs to be some level of gatekeeping here
Well,
for
it's just
safety's sake.
it's just it. You can go on. You can and in the beginning, when people were talking about TikTok, how bad it was and everything else, I was just like, yeah, it's just TikTok. It's a social media platform. But
Mm.
then more and more I got into this and started seeing everything else. It's like, and what you said, it's reputation. They're shoving it in your face. It's
Over
on
and
your
over and
for
over.
you page.
Mhm.
Especially if you happen to just accidentally, I mean, they'll push it to your page even though you don't
You
look
watch
at it.
one video and
Yeah, you're
that's it.
done.
That's bing, 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 bing. Yep.
But so that's a reason why I only watch now when I'm on TikTok. I only watch the people I know. I don't go any
Mhm.
further. I don't go. I
Mhm.
don't search for anything anymore. Um, but no,
Yeah.
it's just it. Like you said, it's constantly flashing in the faces and reputation. Yeah, like you said, the
Repetition
repeating.
for
Yeah,
sure.
the repeating of the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, it's in common. If
The
anybody's taken
simplest form of brainwashing.
Yeah, if anybody's taken any type of like even Psych 101,
Literally,
and
yeah, you don't
would
need to
tell
know
you that.
much.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, and that's the thing, like, I that's what started I think that helped out me a lot because I was open to being able to kind of, like, critically think and, like, pick things apart, and because I literally took Psych 101 and brain and development and brain disorders, like, I took a development class and, learned about the different some of the common different disorders that like, people born who can't feel pain, that kinda thing, like, it's just
Yeah.
a really random stuff that the brain can do, but yeah, and the other thing is I'm also learning just how much hormones have to do with your overall health, your mental health, your complete balance. Like your whole personality can change if your hormones are imbalanced.
Yeah.
And that is what they're doing to these kids. They're preventing them from going through a natural puberty. Like people get upset at me because they're like, "What about precocious puberty? What about kids going through it early?" Like in my opinion, that I guess they'll go through it early, like, it could be because of the chemicals they were eating or whatever their mom had when they were in the womb, like, there's probably a scientific explanation for why that came forward too soon, and it most likely had something to do with their diet.
Yeah.
But to say that puberty is to demonize puberty is actually outrageous, like, everybody needs to go through it. It's
Yeah.
difficult, yes, but it will ensure that you're going to grow up with a fully developed brain. You're not going to have weak bones. You'll be a little more stable. Like, and what I didn't realize is like, so I stopped taking birth control pills a few years ago, and that was also around the same time I started to like wake up to this stuff. So it's almost like my body like flushed all that out and was like, hey, you're actually a little bit more stable now. We can think about things a little bit easier. And it has everything to do with how you function. Like,
Yeah.
and I think so many people in therapy, if they just balance their hormones, they would be, like, essentially cured.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean,
So, that
it's
that that
it's
they're messing with us.
yeah, it's just like when I quit smoking, I still vape, but I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. I mean, I just get the
Mhm,
straight nicotine. I don't get all the other
mhm.
chemicals, from smoking. Um, I noticed ever since I quit smoking, I'm a lot more alert when it comes to certain things. I'm not like always, well, it's a downer is basically all those chemicals on a cigarette is. It's a downer.
'Cause
And
nicotine's an upper, so they try to,
yeah.
like, mess with it.
Yeah. um so I mean, yeah, I totally agree with that. The fact that it's been a brainwashing thing for, I mean, like I said, ever since social media in general. I mean,
Mhm.
except for the fact that media wasn't, it wasn't something that was like continuous, like right in your face. I mean,
Well, three-letter agencies had a lot of to do with the creation of Hollywood in the first place. Like, it was basically movies were created to propagandize people.
well, that's what I tell people about the cartoons we grew up with.
Yeah,
Like
it's
Bugs
propaganda.
Bunny. Those weren't made for kids. I mean, in general, the ones because the originals, like back in the 20s and 30s, when you go to a movie show, that's where cartoons originated.
Mhm,
Was a an intermission type thing. Because they used to break the movies down for intermissions,
mhm.
and they used to throw those cartoons on there, and they weren't made for kids. Because kids most generally didn't go to a lot of movie theaters back then because most of the movies were, what we would classify today as being adult, orientated. But um, no, I mean it's in so much things in Hollywood. Yeah, I mean Hollywood has a lot to do with it too. That's the reason why I think so many Hollywood actors and stuff are getting so much backlash for actually coming out against Hollywood. Um, so
But I didn't wanna just obviously just leave you hanging here.
um, like I said, I mean, there's plenty other times we can continue get on with the conversation of what's going on in the world too. I mean, you're always welcome to come back on here anytime that there's something you want to talk about or like I said and stuff like that. But um, no, like I said, we were talking about the constant feeding of information and everything, and I think it's what a lot of things. I mean, that's the whole
Mhm.
generation. That's everything. The generations that just kind of screwed up and everything else, but we'll kind of like finish off some things. Like I said, I don't want to keep you on too long, so you can go eat your In and Out burger. And that actually I haven't eaten dinner either, so that's a
Sure.
plus. I
Yeah.
mean, so what
Should
are the
get
kind
dinner
of the,
too.
huh? So
Yeah, you
what do
should get
you?
dinner too. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Okay.
like I said, I think between our weather, we're getting there's supposed to be some weather coming through, like a flash or something like that coming through, a flash storm. So that
Mhm.
probably what's messing things up too. Um, But no, I mean,
Yeah.
so what do you have planned like for the future? I mean, I know you're like with Gays Against Groomers. Do you plan on starting your podcast back up? Because like I said, I was going through a lot of them that you did in the beginning, and they're really, really good. And I know you have a lot of information to spread. But so is that something you kind of like maybe want to do it again here coming up or in the near future?
Yeah, if things get a little bit, better for me here, it really depends because like I'm just really worried about Matt right now, and he was doing great for like a month and a half, and then things kind of dipped, and so I'm taking him to the doctor tomorrow just to check in and see what else we can do and kind of go over. We're gonna just reevaluate things, and most of my mind is on that and my family. My grandma suffered a heart attack last month,
Oh
and
no, I'm sorry.
she had surgery and she recovered from it, but it definitely like scared the whole family. We were just like, whoa, okay, yeah. uh you know because a
Yeah,
lot of things will change when she passes. A lot of dynamics will change, and my mother's been living with her, just making sure she's okay for a while now, but we don't know how long we have per se. But she finally did get home. She was recovering for about 2 weeks, and we were like visiting her a lot. Like, that's why I told you July last month was kind of weird for me. It was
yeah,
bad time to get on a podcast, much less like record one. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah,
and then again, I don't want to be just another person that's creating this echo chamber of the same kind of information. Like, sure, I can try to give people my perspective, but like to try and speak on every little thing is exhausting, and it's not really realistic or possible for me anymore. Like, I feel like I've done what I needed to do for the most part, but the work with GAG is really important to me right now because I just that's my way of doing something about this. And because like I was saying, I could record videos all day, but like actually being involved with helping people get out there, spreading the awareness, getting involved in legislation, learning more about legislation, and just helping to be a voice for these parents that are potentially losing custody of their kids over just not wanting them to live as the opposite gender before they're 18. I think is unreasonable. It's just frightening. So if I can do something about that, I will. But as far as the rest of this mess, I don't know what to say anymore. Like, I just want people to understand that like the government hates us,
yeah,
all of us, all of us.
yeah. No, I agree, and I do agree with the fact. I think so much. I think that's the reason why one thing I quit like watching a lot of podcasts and stuff like that when it comes to
Yeah.
the gender and everything else. I look at the information that you guys put out and everything else, but it's like everybody. It's just recycled. I mean, they're recycling Dylan Mulvaney content.
Yeah.
They're recycling Bud Light content. I mean,
Yeah.
all that. I mean, it's getting
That's
to
what
the
I
point.
mean. It
It's
gets
boring.
exhausting, and I don't know what to contribute to that anymore in that sense, like I don't want to be just another talking head parrot that's saying a version of the same thing necessarily, but the journey I'm going through now is too personal. I'm in a sensitive place. I'm processing a lot. I've gone through a lot, going through a lot with Matt right now, and someday I'll write a book, probably, but it's too much right now. I would love to figure something out as far as like my own niche of content, what I should do, but I'm also just really sick of the people that are brainwashed and the trolls and the ones that they want my address, they want my head on a stick, they think I'm this horrible person, like, and I know that I'm not, and it's been relatively easy to ignore. But those days when you're not having a great time, and that little thing just is the straw that breaks the camel's back. Like, occasionally, yeah, like that's what bothers me is like these people are still out there. They still don't see what I'm trying to do. It's so frustrating. You can't make everybody like you. You can't please everybody. I
Yeah,
understand that, but there are definitely some days where I'm just like, stop, like, leave me alone. I'm just, leave me alone,
yeah.
um
Well, I mean, and
I'm
it
just
is a
doing what I can to kind of stay sane, really.
yeah. I mean, and it doesn't hurt either to just kind of like step back and take a break for things and just kind of like I said, not really because I know what you're going through with Matt and everything else. That's I couldn't even imagine going through that. I mean, I hear the stories and everything else, and it's just like it's just heart wrenching to find out that I'm not sure what exactly what his story is and how he got to the point to detransitioning, but I'm glad he is. I mean, if that makes sense. I mean, I hate the fact that he's going through all the issues he's going through doing it, but I guess I mean that's a
Yeah,
it's a point to kind of like
and it's
make is
not
that
something that's
mm,
it's not something that's gonna happen all at once. Some people have asked me some pretty personal questions. I can't necessarily answer for Matt all the time, but, like, they're like, "Oh, well, my why is Matt still going by Matt? Why doesn't he just snap back? Why are you still using male pronouns?" Chris, for one thing, I think he feels stuck, like, the voice is broken, things can't be undone, the facial hair is always gonna be there, that kinda thing, and he's legally been Matt for, like, over a decade.
oh yeah
So it's like you can't just snap back from that. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah
you don't just like, "Okay, yeah, now I'm a woman again."
yeah
No.
it's not a light switch.
There is so much to it mentally and physically. So yeah, you're gonna hear me say he, him for Matt because that's what I'm used to. That's what Matt's used to. But we know at the end of the day, it's Matt was born a woman. That's the truth. So and it just is what it is. And I know Matt just wants to warn people to be really careful when making this decision, and he doesn't want any children to do it at all.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, if you're over the age of 18, I mean, and to the point to where you know, like I said, you can't smoke, you can't buy cigarettes unless you're 18, which in most states now is 21. In some states, anyways, you can't buy alcohol 21. You can't vote till you're 18. You can't join the service until you're 18. I mean, I don't understand
Right.
why this is allowed. I've never. It just like I said, being an old soul, being an old school type of person, it just blows my mind. I mean,
Yeah, and it makes people who are my age feel like we're outdated and we're old, and I'm like, there's no way. Like
yeah.
this has all happened way too fast. I'm still very young, and
Hmm.
this it's how can you just try to rewrite everyone's reality and like try to tell people that who question it that they're like bigots and Nazis and horrible people, transphobic, homophobic. Oh, you're an awful person. Just let it happen. Affirm, affirm, affirm. Like this is not normal.
I look at it this way: is it's like if everybody would comply and sit there and just let it happen, the world would be even bigger chaos than what it is now. I mean, if you think about it,
Right.
if anybody would just, I mean, everything would stop. The world would basically stop if everybody just went through and let it happen. Because there would be
Yeah,
no
well, we would
more.
already be in like a surveillance state by now. We would already have 15-minute cities. We would already have a social credit system and digital IDs and implanted microchips. We would already be there because they've been slowly dripping this over time. Like I still remember like roughly when cell phones were getting popular and there
Mhm.
were the tinfoil hat people of that time were like, this is how they're gonna get all your information. This is how they're gonna track you. This is how they're gonna do this. And we were like, that's crazy. Whatever, whatever. That's exactly what they did.
Yep.
They and Facebook, everybody just offers up all their
Oh,
data, all their personal information, their birthday, when they did this, when they did that, all their photos. What a great database for the CIA.
yep. Well, Facebook.
Perfect.
I'm a firm believer. It's like Facebook was what they used to call LifeLog, is what DARPA used to, because DARPA created
Yeah.
it. And I think what they happened is they just seen that, Zuckerberg and that other kid was putting together this stuff, and it's just like, oh, and I'm sure Zuckerberg's family had a lot of dealings. I'm sure they're just not like some random family. I believe that they probably had something to do with the government. That's the reason why he was picked to come in
Mhm.
and basically take over LifeLog because, like I said, LifeLog ended in February on the same day that Facebook started.
Hmm.
So it's just like
Of course it did.
if people can't put the obvious together, that's what irritates me. If you cannot put the obvious together,
I know.
there's something definitely wrong with you.
That's the thing, and that's what's so frustrating is like I've only been at this for let's say 3 years, and I'm already tired of being like, okay, you see this and this. Now connect those dots,
Yeah,
okay? I yeah, so I don't know how people who have been seeing this stuff for, like, over a decade are even, like, living right now because, like, there have been several times where I'm just like, "That's it, like, I'm done, I don't wanna be on this planet, I'm this is n no, like, we are so far gone so quickly, and, I don't really think there's anything that's gonna make us unify, especially because, like,
no,
nobody really batted an eyelash when the government was like, "By the way, there's aliens." We were like, "Are they gonna pay my rent?"
yeah.
Like,
It's like take
no,
me to your
I don't
leader. I'm
care.
ready to go.
You can have our leader because we need to get him out of the office. I want this to be like Mars Attacks. I want them to invade and just blow up Congress. Like, I'm done. You know, I just want to be that old lady in the wheelchair that's like, "Ha, they blew
Yep.
up Congress."
Yep. Well, talking about that, who was the one that just got? Oh, the dude, the gentleman in Provo, Utah, that the FBI went and raided and killed.
Hmm.
The 70-year-old man.
Yeah, of all people, like,
But
you
Madonna
know,
can sit
they
there and talk about blowing up the White House live on a press conference,
yeah,
and
and Kathy Griffin can hold a fake bloody head
yeah,
of a president. It none of it makes any sense. Like it, and I'm just tired of it, being predictably unpredictable. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yep.
oh yeah, you don't say kind of thing. Like, I'm sure.
Well, it's just like
It's just
now,
like,
just like now that they're talking about. I don't know if y'all have listened to this and anything else, but if you guys don't, that's what I'm saying. You need to do your research and pay attention. I don't like. I always tell people like, don't read just one newspaper. Don't read one news article.
no.
Read them all. Read both sides, the left side,
Yeah.
the right side, and all of the independent
Yes.
stations that are coming up, and then make your determination.
Yeah,
Because
I
I'm a
think so
firm
too. That's what I
believer.
try to tell people.
I'm a firm believer. Independents like we are that try to get the information out and everything else are more reliable than mainstream media. For one, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's the news stations coming up that say they're totally fact based and everything else, and they're still running off of ratings. Um,
I'm sort of jealous that Canada can't see CNN on social media now. I mean, I know it's sort of a mixed bag, but it's like, oh no, CNN is censored. Oh no. Oh,
Oh
I
man,
wish.
they've been censoring. Yeah, they censored a lot of things. There was another one that got censored too here just recently, but it's because of the new bill that they placed in there. That if they're not talking, because the new bill in Canada is if you're not talking a lot about Canada, you're going to be censored. Because they want the revenue.
Well, that sounds like some North Korea stuff. Like, it's
It
just
does,
crazy to
right?
me.
Well, I mean,
It's insane.
Trudeau, whatever the hell his name is, I can never say. I can say it.
Trudeau.
Yeah, I can say it when I'm not thinking about it, but um,
Mr. Trudeau Castro.
yeah, yeah. My friend Gunn that does the other podcast every once in a while with me, he's a Canadian. And I always sit there and tell him, he's like, yeah, he's the illegitimate son of Castro. And he's like, oh, he's not. I go, well, if you look at him, he kind of looks like him.
Ye- His mom was literally hanging out with him.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
obvious.
But that's the reason, I'm talking about those kind of people because Gunn's that way. He only takes the information that he gets like from us when we discuss it or anything else like that. And he'll fact check me
Yeah.
online or live when we're live on the podcast. And I'm like, so that's why I call him Mr. Google. I go, you're not going to be able to use that too much more because, your country's censoring all that stuff. So they're only going to get you what you want to read.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Like I said, between everything going on, I, like you said, I'm dumbfounded and I'm exhausted all at the same time.
Yeah. That's where I'm at. Like, I'm just very drained. I don't know how people have been doing this for so long, and
I mean,
by some standards, I mean, I didn't go as hard as some other creators did. I just wanted people to understand that, like, I had genuinely shifted my perspective. But the interesting thing is that a lot of my original accounts are lost, so now there's
yeah,
like no physical proof of like my evolution for, so it's like, how convenient. And
yeah,
that's why people are like, oh well, you were never a leftist. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, somewhere I've saved some screenshots and some other people may have them, but like, of my old social media, my old bios, how I called myself non-binary, pictures of me at BLM stuff, like, you don't get it. Like, this is possible, but you really have to want to and be open to critically thinking. You have to do, like you said, compare, contrast sources, and not just rely on the people within the bubble of this stuff either. For, like I said, when they just put up some random stuff and you're like, whoa, that's crazy. Like,
yeah,
you have to look into it too. That's your responsibility. I can't hand you all this information. And that's what I feel. I started to feel really pressured by people in these spheres, like, who maybe discovered one or two things and now they just want to, it's like they just want to be entertained by conspiracy theories forever. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be one of those people. Like,
yeah.
so I
No,
just
no,
I just I'm
I'm
just
with
down
you
to
on that.
doing what I can.
And that's why when I first started getting into this and I started finding my voice and stuff like that and being able to talk about it, I was the same way. It's like, oh, I'm going to do this and do this. I'm just like you. Then I started looking at all these other ones, and it's like, well, hell, that's already been said like 9,000 times. This has already been said like
Right.
50,000 times.
Yeah.
What am I going to be able to contribute any different to it? you know, um, I
Mhm.
mean, it's just like talking about like hiding stuff. I mean, it's just like the whole thing with the Sound of Freedom, the movie that came out. Did you ever get to watch that?
Of course. Yeah,
I
right
haven't
away.
watched. I still haven't got to watch it yet. Well, it'll probably come out to the point to where I can watch it here at home here before too long. I just don't go to the movies a lot. Um, but the Sound of Freedom, every and that got me looking into certain things. That's one of those rabbit holes. You look at Sound of Freedom, why Hollywood was, the elites were wanting to just, why one it was shoved in a vault for over 5 years before it was actually released.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand because when it was made, it was during the Epstein era, and people didn't want to put any more focus on what was going on with that. Um, but I really do. I'm a firm believer in things like that, and I'm a firm believer we need to step up and bring the Epstein into more light on what is happening. Because
Mhm. For
like I
sure.
said, there's so many different things, with Epstein, the sex trafficking cult, and everything else. I mean, I've even come down to the point to where I started looking into Youngblood. I don't know if you've heard about that, the Youngblood conspiracy theory. Um,
That one in particular, I don't know if I know too much about, but I've heard of most of them.
I mean, it's just kind of crazy that that was actually a thing at one point in time. There was actually a a lab and everything else over in California that was actually doing that. They were selling young blood at $8,000 an ounce.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was. I mean, and there's
Ambrosia, I think
that's
is
it's
what it
not
was
even a
called.
theory. That's what people don't get is like
Yeah,
people really are trying to use blood to de-age themselves and to, it and the adrenochrome is real. It's like an
yep,
adrenaline drug. It's a thing. It was in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
yep. Yeah, and that's
So,
one thing too. I tell people is like watch movies, especially movies that were made back prior to 2000, because a lot of those movies,
hmm,
those directors threw a lot of information in there. That
yeah, they knew what they were doing.
they went through they did it in a way to where the censorship board, the Hayes Committee and stuff like that, or it's not really Hayes Committee anymore, but the censorship board of the didn't find it, and it was people like us that actually
Hmm.
had the ability to think and what they call the conspiracy theorists can find that stuff. But no, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, because I've been looking into this young blood stuff, and it's just amazing. And I'm when you think about it, you could probably even connect the idea of that with the whole thing going on with the sex trafficking and everything else in certain
Hmm.
aspects of it. I mean, people don't even believe me. It's like if you don't believe about the young blood and about these actors and these elites wanting to look young, just Google Sandra Bullock and Ellen and look at there's
Yeah,
a did you see that
that was
interview?
weird.
Yeah, I mean, she just basically came
Yeah,
out and
the
said it, and it's
whole
like,
baby foreskins thing is just like, how would you tell people that for one thing?
so that just it's one of those little things. It's that little snippet that people just don't even think nothing about. But then,
Yeah, they just kind of like log it away.
and then
And they're
this
like,
stuff,
oh, that's interesting.
yeah, then this stuff comes about, and they don't remember what happened, and they can't
And
put two to
they
two
don't put
together.
two and two together. Yeah.
It's like, come on, people.
Yeah.
I mean, the fountain of youth is not a thing. I mean, it's been around since the 20s, and since Hollywood's been invented, people have wanted to stay young. Because if you look older in Hollywood, you lose your recognition and you lose your ability to get parts and roles and everything else. I
Well, what's
mean,
scary is about Hollywood too, and all of this is like, um, it was actually confirmed that through some people we've met that have worked in Hollywood, that one of the things they will do if you want the fame bad enough, they will force you. They will blackmail you to do something to a child and record it and log it over you forever. And that is
yep,
why a lot of these celebrities will stay in lockstep with the narrative and they'll push random stuff. They'll tell you to get the vaccine. They'll, parrot stuff. They'll side with all these corporations and things to try and brainwash you. And it's because they are blackmailed. They get
yeah.
these big roles because they go far enough and they make these deals and sometimes they're forced into it. They're not necessarily given a choice. It's like they're literally having guns put to their heads.
Well, it's just like the Me Too movement, with Rose McGowan coming out about, the stuff that happened to her with Weinstein, and all these
Mhm.
other female actresses. I mean, look at all the if you look at all the kid actors back in the day, look at how many are either one have committed suicide, two are recovering drug addicts now, or alcoholics.
Yeah.
I mean, you got, you know, uh,
Just look at Amanda Bynes. She's a
yeah.
wreck. She's still a wreck.
I mean, look at Miley Cyrus. She went through that whole phase of whatever she was going through. Britney
Yeah.
Spears. I mean, all of them. I mean, you go back even further. You've got Shirley Temple. You've got Judy
Yep.
Garland,
Brooke Shields.
Brooke Shields. The first actual. I mean, you look at Blue Lagoon. That should have been, is a rated R movie
Yeah.
today just for that one scene, and she was 14 when that happened. When that
Brooke
scene.
Shields was exploited. She was
Yeah.
put. She was like between 10 and 12 years old when they made her like a little prostitute in a food movie and put her
Hmm.
naked in a magazine. She was a child.
Yeah. So I mean, the Hollywood elite started all this stuff back in the day. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a show. I don't know if you. There's a show on Netflix. I actually just finished the series called Hollywood or
Hmm.
Hollywoodland. I believe it's what it's called.
Netflix
Hollywood.
always leaves stuff out. They always leave
Yeah,
important things out. It's stupid. It makes me angry.
but it's just kind of interesting. It was talking about the homosexual aspect of Hollywood back in the
Hmm.
30s and 40s.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah,
That's persisting for sure. A lot of them
yeah.
are doing weird stuff.
But I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things. Like I said, it's just like everybody's got to just pick up on your history. I mean, if you don't, even if you don't, like I said, Netflix and all the Hollywood movie nowadays don't, they leave things out completely. Um, but they do still give you like a little bit of kernel, that little kernel
Hmm.
to like go and search before it's gone. I
Hmm.
mean, because they're rewriting the internet as we speak. Um,
Literally.
and rewriting our history books as we speak and everything else. This is like with the whole thing
I
with
think parts of
COVID
China
and
are even trying to rewrite the Bible.
oh, I wouldn't doubt it. Did you see?
I'm pretty sure I've read something that there's a part of them that they are. Yeah.
Did you see? I guess now there's a TikTok or something floating around that people believing that it's an AI generated Chinese propaganda about marriage. About they're showing a white girl like putting on a ring in the video, and it's showing when every time she puts on the ring, it does like a flashback to everything that a mother would do, like take care of the household, take care of the babies, and everything else. And then she would pull her finger out of the ring, and it would it was she was doing these flashbacks every time
Oh,
she
I
put it in
think I
there.
did. That sounds familiar. Yeah. So they're
But
trying to make it like some weird, scary thing or something. I don't
yeah,
know.
they're
It's stupid.
so the whole rumor about that is that it's a Chinese propaganda sitting there trying to denounce marriage. But the funny thing is, you talk about
Hmm.
China. It's like China's what was it, China or Japan? But one of them two were like they cut or they took away the idea that you can't have like more children because they're losing population. Because they had that whole
Yeah, like
they
that
had that
wasn't a good
whole
idea.
they had that whole thing to where you could only have what 2 or 3 children, and then now they're
Well,
figuring out.
and then they were, and then there's the whole getting rid of girl babies thing. It's just awful. So it's like, what did you think would happen? You were frowning on girls being born, and then you had all these boys, and now you're wondering why the population's out of whack.
Yeah, well, it's the whole thing with
Hello.
I mean, you look at all, that all stems back like from the German, the Third Reich and Hitler and all that stuff because that's what he was trying to do. He took the kids, the Hitler Youth and stuff like that. Women were the girls were separated into doing certain things, and then the boys were put in classes to where they learned about, you know, military, being compliant and everything else because they were building soldiers. It's kind of like what our current public
Hmm.
education system is built off is creating workers, which was a hungry.
Yeah, they're
It's a,
doing not. They're not quite making soldiers. It's almost like they're trying to do the opposite. They're just trying to make people they can control,
yeah,
like
exactly.
and like dominate. Not necessarily use, but dominate.
Well, when man brought back the education system from Hungary, they turned it in from because Hungary was using it as a form of creating soldiers. They brought it back here back in
Mhm.
1867 or whatever, and got together with Rockefeller and all those elites, all those oil barons and everything else. And they wanted to, use it to create workers, which, I mean, it did the perfect job. I
Mhm.
mean, that's all we do now. I mean,
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
talking about
That's what they've done.
you talk about slavery and wanting reparation for, we're basic, unless you own your own company, which you're still a slave to the public. But I mean,
Mhm.
you're a slave to the almighty dollar. I mean, that's the way it's been. That's the way I was raised as a kid.
Yeah.
It's one thing my dad,
We're debt slaves.
yeah. And now, now what is it? This generation is like $30 million or $30 billion in debt or something like that. The Generation Z.
Yeah, people in my generation, we've given up on owning homes. It's not really gonna happen, you know?
I mean, I can tell you right now, if the house we're in now, if it wasn't a repossession home that was taken over by my wife, that and the locked in rate that we'd got, you know, 10 years ago when we refinanced, there would be no freaking way we'd be able to afford a new house. That's what we talked about, was selling this one,
Mhm.
because the value's like doubled on it, since COVID. So the resale
Yeah,
value
that's
on it,
crazy.
we could get our money out and go do something else. But you got to think about it. The bank loan's going to be twice as much as, or even maybe three times as much as what we're paying on a house payment now on that locked in rate. So
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm fine where I'm at. I like I said, I'm in the building
Yeah.
trade. I'm in the building trade. As a daytime job, and I see these people losing their ass on a daily basis with building their homes, especially like during the pandemic. There was so many people that bought the lumber at such a high price that they lost $20,000-$30,000 after everything dropped. So,
Oof,
and now the fact that,
that sucks.
and I'm a firm believer too, is like the things that's going on with San Francisco with the homeless. I believe that's a population, or not a population, that's a property value drop scheme to get people to come that way.
Mhm.
People like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street and all them can come in and swoop up. But I'm gonna let you get off of here so you can go eat your supper. And I appreciate you coming in again. And like I said, I hope we get to do this again, because I love picking your brain and talking with you about this stuff.
Yeah, me too. And I'm sorry your friend didn't end up joining us.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. She like I said, she was going through some issues today, and she didn't give me full details.
Yeah.
But um,
Yeah. I had some this morning and I was like, I hope I don't have to cancel, because the things were just kind of odd, but
yeah,
yeah, it's all good. I'm happy to come chat with you again sometime soon as well.
yeah. And like I said, if there's every chance, I'm very, very. Yeah, I mean, I understand real life. Mine does that very often, and so never worry about if we do schedule something, you have to move it around. So I'm
Okay.
I'm totally good with that. Um,
Yeah, thanks for understanding.
but no, like I said, I appreciate you coming in, and like I said, all the information and stuff like that. Got to know you a little bit more. Got to know a little bit about the way you think and the way you operate, and would like to kind of like maybe do something future planned wise when you get your life back in order. Um,
Yeah. Oh, no idea when that's gonna happen, but we'll see.
yeah, someday. I'm still waiting on mine too. So
Right. I don't know. Like adulthood just feels like this permanent chase of like never having stuff together. It's like, do you ever feel like you have stuff together? I don't know. They think people are faking it.
Oh yeah, we got into a conversation with some of my buddies this afternoon. It's just like we were talking about high school. You know, Everybody was like all of a sudden started throwing out there's like, oh yeah, I was this in high school, this, I had this, and it's like this, and it's like, yes, we all had our issues in high school, but I think it determines how, as a child, and that's one thing, is as a child will determine how you become as an adult. You know, with
Right.
whatever you learn, however you learn it. You know, it's a reason why we've got so many kids that are, you know, you know, feel like they're privileged and everything else, is because that's the way their parents raised them, was to be privileged. And you got the ones
Yeah.
that,
Very watered down.
yeah, you got the ones that fight tooth and nail to get where they want as a kid. Didn't have a lot of a family structure, so they had to fight tooth and nail. So that brought them up as being a more, well, I'm not going to say all of them, but a good percentage of them, to be able to fight with what they want, what they feel is necessary, and what they feel is right in the world. So, but
Yeah.
kind of crazy. life is crazy. I don't.
It
Like I said.
is. I think it's only going to get crazier, so I'm just trying to hang on to my sanity.
Uh,
But thanks for having me.
Hi, hiker. Thank you for coming in. I found you on page on Instagram. Oh, hiker emoji says hi, Judith on Rumble.
Oh,
Um,
hello.
and thank you for the follow too. I appreciate it. Um, but no, it's just like, yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, if you guys want to know more about her, just make sure you go check her page out on Twitter and everything else. Interact with her on there, and like I said, she's with Gaze Against Groomers as well. She does a lot of good work with them. Um,
Thank you.
and I'm really, really honored that I've got to, know you a little bit more over the last couple of interviews and stuff like that. So hopefully this is like a start to a new beginning. Maybe, we can, like I said, go further as everything calms down for everybody, or, gets a lull in there anyways. I don't think it'll ever calm down like you said, but there's got to be
No.
lulls.
I think it's going to be a very interesting few months here, ending the year out. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully if the 80-year blocks is on if the 80-year block is a real thing, hopefully this is our we have one more year of this, and it should be smooth
Yeah.
sailing for at least another 15 years anyways. And then we'll start it all over again.
We'll see.
Yeah. But all right, go get your In-N-Out burger and
Okay. Gotta
and
have my burger.
and tell Matt I said hi, and I hope he gets better and everything else,
Okay.
and we'll talk
Thank
to you
you.
soon hopefully.
Appreciate you. Yeah. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye. Hey all, this here's Rebel. Hey, thank you for joining us tonight on the Rebel Nation. We really appreciate you being here, all the follows, all the support. It helps immensely. We're trying to grow this channel, make it bigger and better every time, so leave your feedback. That always helps us grow. Also, if you like what you hear, hit those like buttons. Come over to the YouTube, hit the subscribe button over there, hit some likes, enjoy the shows over there. And also make sure you download the Stationhead app, because that is where you're going to be able to come on the show live and talk with us. All you got to do is go to your Apple and Android store, download Stationhead, search for Nation Radio, connect your Apple or your Spotify accounts, and you're good to go. Anyways, like I said, if you like what you see, you know what to do. We'll talk to you guys on the next one, which will be Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, live on Rumble and on Stationhead. And y'all have a good night. See ya.